Nigeria's 10th Assembly celebrated its 1 year in office on the 13th of June. Yes, it was inaugurated on the 13th of June 2023 and will run its course until the 13th of June 2027. 109 senators and 369 members of the House of Representatives under the leadership of the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas. As of June the 11th, 2024, National Assembly records show that at least 477 bills were initiated since the 10th Senate kicked off its activities. Of this figure, only 25 bills were fully passed into law, while others are currently at different stages before the Senate. Senate leader Okey Bamidele explains that, quote, in addition to legislative activities, the Senate has passed 115 resolutions of significant consequence to economic development and national stability, end quote. But 50 public complaints have been resolved, according to him, and 215 nominees for different political offices have been screened and confirmed by the Senate. In the House of Representatives, 1,500 bills are being considered, while only 10 have been passed and consolidated. Also, 679 motions have been moved. Not very impressive with a budget that large. Today we ask if the National Assembly is worth its salt. Hello and welcome to Political Paradigm on Channels Television as we wrap up the middle of 2024. I'm Kayla Magwa. My guest on the program is Professor Okey, policy and strategy expert, a professor of strategic management and human capital development from the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, executive director of Development Specs Academy, a training partner of the Nigerian Army Resource Center adjunct faculty of the Nigerian Defense Academy, NDA, an internationally certified management consultant, media practitioner, trainer, and highly sought-after resource in the private and public sector. He holds a PhD in philosophy and metaphysics, convener of National Roundtable on national issues. At various times, he was a lecturer in the University of Lagos, former special assistant to the Minister of Transport, Information, and National Orientation, respectively. Former head of communications in the Federal Ministry of Education, Director General of the International Institute of Leadership and Governance. And if we kept going on, we would need a whole hour to read your CV. I want to thank you so much for being with us on Political Paradigm today.
Thank you.
How are you?
Now, with all that time you spent on it, do we still have time for the program?
I think we can squeeze in.
Okay.
We can squeeze in a little bit of time, Prof. It's so good to have you here.
Same here.
So we're talking about our National Assembly. How have they fared? First, let's start from there. In your view, how have they done?
Well, holistically, I don't get the impression that most people are happy with the National Assembly. Yeah, you've spoken about bills and all the rest of it, but these are supposed to be representatives of the people. In other words, they are there on behalf of Nigerians. So while you're talking about bills, I would like you to say that there's evidence of consultation. In other words, they passed 2 bills, and for that bill to happen, this one consulted and met people in his constituency office X number of times to indicate it's a democracy, etc. We're not hearing any of that. And if you're to measure it, I'm glad you mentioned the budget. You said the House of Representatives pulled off 10 bills out of quite a couple of hundreds. Very impressive, because what it then means is that if it's 10 bills per year, in 4 years we'll have 40 bills, for which we spent a couple of trillions. And many of them are issues like they spoke about some conflicts, some issues that have been resolved, petitions, which I'm sure some village chiefs would have resolved if there was no House of Assembly. Or Munna, extended family. So let's get real. The real issue is that you're also talking about a National Assembly that had a budget, is it 36 billion or 3-something billion for a new car park, is it? How much do they have to rehabilitate the building? You see, the political leadership, particularly at the level of the legislature would seem, in my view, to have developed a level of insensitivity that is frightening in terms of its likely consequences. Each time you have a new assembly, new vehicles are bought. That's every 4 years. For vehicles that have a lifespan of 30, and for vehicles that can be repurposed. It's not happening. Then you look at the allowances, you look at the kind of budgets they're doing, you look at constituency projects. I think some 4 months or 5 months ago, I did an article on the back page of This Day. The title was Gbajabiamila's Constituency Projects Running into Serious Billions, which is successfully and conclusively executed for his people in Lagos, hospital. Why I wrote that article, I have no business, no personal connection with Gbajabiamila, but I threw it up deliberately because he was one out of 300 and something people who got the same cash value, but who have nothing to deliver. So if Gbajabiamila could deliver something worth so many billions for the period he was in the house, and for which period he also got X amount, other people got the same amount, what are we doing with the Federal Republic of Nigeria? So yes, it's 1 year. Coming substantively to the question you raised, is 1 year of the National Assembly. And what I see, I might be looking in the wrong direction or not looking at it correctly. What I see is a National Assembly that's probably one of the worst since we began this experiment in democracy. There's no indication of robust independence. The issues being taken up off the mic and the rest of it, and also the question of, if you like, the profile of some of the people there. But it doesn't take away from something, because a situation may be bad and they find some kind of amelioration. It's a compliant National Assembly, which means that if the executive arm has very good bills, very good ideas, it will also be very quickly executed. So on the one hand, I'm not impressed with the performance, both in terms of number of laws, bills passed, the kind of expenses they are dealing with. On the other hand, we don't see executive-legislature conflict. We see a lot of proactivism from the executive more than from the legislature. So if anybody has any good ideas he can get through to the executive to push through as a law, it's likely to pass faster. But if you ask me, should the future of Nigeria depend on the conduct and profile of the current National Assembly? If it should, then we are in very deep trouble.
I want to be able to get into the nitty-gritty of everything that's happened in the past year. But before we do that, I want to get your thoughts. Many people are looking at the fact that they spend too much time in this National Assembly, these senators and honorable members. They spend too many years in this place. Is that some kind of review has to be done? In fact, they used to taking it to a bigger conversation, whereas the parliamentary system, maybe we should bring that back. And then there's a talk of 6-year term, a 6-year one-time term. What do you make of this conversation? Because, and in truth, we've heard many Nigerians complain, this person has been a member of the Senate for God knows how long. This person has been in the House of Representatives for how long? What do you make of this conversation right now?
Well,
should it be shorter?
No, I have no quarrel with how long anybody stays in any of the chambers. My concern would be what impact is he or she making on the lives of his constituents and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If he's doing the right thing, that's at one level. The other thing, of course, some people have asked for it to become a part-time job.
Yes.
And the call is, let's also, if I go back to the parliamentary system, when I hear some of these calls, some of it with a lot of passion, this is what needs to happen. Those people saying that they do not ask themselves, who is going to make it happen? You must understand the political economy of your operating environment, the issues of power and power politics, that if I'm a serving senator, enjoying all the entitlements, you are a serving member of the House of Reps, this other person is a serving member of the State House of Assembly, you think we'll sit down to pass laws that will take away the luxury we're enjoying? It's not going to happen. So a certain form of, with all due respect, political illiteracy surrounds most of the heated debates about what is good for Nigeria. We can sit here and have all the argument we have for 10 hours, we want for 10 hours. You know, if you make it part-time, Nigeria will save a lot of money. If you have the parliamentary system, this would happen. The best thing is to have not a presidential system. In fact, we should go back to the regional system. All these again, with all due respect, is a conversation of people who don't know the effect of hot water on bare skin. You're saying that. Go back to regions. I'm a serving governor. In my region, there are about maybe 9 other governors. And you will sit down, you collapse us into one space. Now, there are people who are commissioners. They're all important people. There are judges. Chief judge, each of the 9 states has a chief judge. You're not going to have one major thing in the place. So you have an elite that is structured to laugh when you bring up such things because it's not going to happen. That's the point. So it's one thing to come out on television and say, we need to reduce this and that. It is talk. Do you have the capacity and leverage? Assuming a House of Assembly, a National Assembly is going to pass that kind of bill, it's not because you're angry on television. It's because you're able to begin consultations, win people over, very personalized conversations that, look, Kayla, you've been in this place for 6 years now. There's 2 more years to go. Your village isn't really different from what it was before you came. Are your cousins happier, richer? Well, we went to your place. I saw your fantastic house the other day, but you're still surrounded by poverty. My sister, what I'm telling you is the same in my area. In fact, anybody who left my place in 1970, coming back now, will see more or less the same thing, just some new houses, and see how much. So I'm beginning to wonder, if we leave this legacy, it will continue. Imagine that we all agree, those of us who are serving now, to kind of make a law to make this National Assembly thing a part-time thing. You may convince me, you may not convince the other person. It may take you 3 years or 7 years to get more and more people with the capacity to be embarrassed. Now, but the one of we need it to happen tomorrow. That's why I look at all the conversations by the different regions calling for one form of autonomy or the other. You have the Nigerian state, you have the Nigerian military. The army will fold its hands and watch you walking out of Nigeria. When it has the duty for today, given the Constitution, to protect its integrity, it's not going to happen. That's number one. Number two, you look at the power structures, you look at the configuration of the Nigerian state. It's okay, let's go to the National Assembly and vote for it. The votes from the North will always knock out any view the North doesn't like. Therefore, this country, as we speak, is structured to remain the way it is, just or unjust. And you take it further, not only in terms of the voting, you look at revenue. If you want to think of some level of equity, what you will ask for is that local governments should no longer be allocated funds directly. In which case, yes, you give the money to the states. If they like, they can create 3 million local, they can make each person a local government as is walking on the road. It will be local government, okay, right? Now, that will bring some equity. Because today, the states receive money, I think for what percentage now, I don't remember the federation account, 26 or thereabouts. And the local governments receive 20-something percent. Kano State has nearly the number of local governments you have in the entire 5 states of the Southeast. So if the Southeast is getting less money, it's not because Tinubu hates them. It's because there's a lousy structure. Now you see, so the whole talk about equity, let's create more states. Nobody would have a region happen in this country. And you're talking about state creation. Look at the conditions for state creation. Those are the sort of things National Assembly should look into if it's serious about equity. Okay, you want a state? 2 of us say we want a state, so we notify the National Assembly. They tell us, okay, go back and do a referendum for your people to say you want a state. We do that and go back, and they say, okay, we take it to all the state houses of assembly in the country, 36 of them, and at least 2/3 will agree. You and I know it will not happen because it means you want to bring another plate to the sharing table. So the structure called the current constitution is an exercise in monumental, what do you call it now? I don't want to use the expression that came to my mind. So, and those who are against it are making speeches. It's about power. It's about leverage. It's about having conversations at the level of elite conspiracy. This whole thing was there. So anyway.
I mean, it's very instructive that this sort of conversation has come out now, because we have to move from the outrage. and we see that with a lot of talk coming up in recent times. Is there any way to get these lawmakers to feel shame and feel the need, so that, because there are consultations going on, there are people talking,
Yes.
there are people trying. Is it possible to get them to feel shame and want to make some kind of change that may hurt their benefits,
Yes.
but be better for the is this ever going to happen, or should we just stop fooling ourselves? Is this ever
We
going
will
to
not
happen?
stop fooling ourselves. NSAS was a fantastic success. A runaway success where Nigerian youths, showed what they could do. And I've had elaborate arguments about it. Oh, we were organized. This is how much we spent feeding so many thousands of people. If it was federal government, it would have run into millions. If you give us Nigeria, this is how we would run it efficiently. And my response is simple. Nigeria is not a toll gate. That's number one. Number two, it was not Nigerian youths who were doing NSAS. No, it was elite Nigerian youths. That's the difference. And that's less than 0.2% of Nigerian youths. Those who were doing that thing, first, they were right in protesting against SARS. They had reason to be angry like all of us. They did their duty by going out to say, no, this must not continue. We must applaud that action. But then take it the next level. They were all well dressed. They didn't fight anytime food was brought. Now, that's the behavior of the elite. Because they were sure if they don't eat now, they will eat later. And on top of all of that, among the things served, there was also pizza. Now, one big pizza, that's about 7,000 at that time. And that's the cost of a pot of soup in Mushin for at least 4 days. You just pick it and chew. Again, that's not Nigerian yet. You take it a little further. Imagine that those thousands of youths at Lekki Toll Gate, that 7 area boys came among them. 90% of them will run away when those boys start acting. So what am I leading up to? Let the young not celebrate imaginary successes, which are successes because they don't understand, know enough. The old needs to give them a sense of history so they are not guided by hysteria. Who will take time to explain to them what you're doing is right? If you want it to last, do it this way. Instead, we stay on this side. Oh, they don't know what they're doing. No, so that's why I work with a lot of youth leaders and young people. Because some of us were like that. A little more, I won't tell you.
That dichotomy between the elite and the
the younger generation.
I want to use the right words. Okay. You said something very instructive there. Many people don't like hearing it because many people, like you said, are driven by hysteria without a sense of history. Try to understand, for many young people, that there is a Nigeria
which must exist before you make your protest.
It exists. There's nothing you can do about this Nigeria. I know that you schooled abroad, you're exposed, you have fellowships that you belong to, and your voice matters, but so do other voices. How do we, because you see, this dynamic has, we've left talking about the National Assembly.
Leave National Assembly.
We're going to come back to
Let's talk about real Nigeria.
But you see, this dynamic where we're ignorant of each other's history and where we are in our country, how do we fix that? Because what's happened really is that we see many people from one section, they're very outspoken on social media, we need this done, we need that done. But then there's another section of Nigeria that is the majority, and they're just quiet.
No, they're not quiet. The point is,
they have their own issues that they're dealing with that are being ignored. How do we fix this so we don't grow, because they are growing, so we don't grow into a country where it's almost like you're in two different countries? How do we fix that?
First, you spoke of you have those on social media making very solid, correct statements about what to do to fix Nigeria. Then you have those who don't know their social media. It's not those who do not know that they are social media. In other words, their takings do not come from social media. So you have a social media demographic that's noisier than the rest, that's far less penetrative than the rest and assumes it knows the problem, and that by raising it, like sometimes you see on WhatsApp, circulate this thing until it gets to the government. They believe there's somebody, government, that's waiting. When he reads the WhatsApp, he say, oh, that's terrible, let's do something.
Let's do something about it.
That level of ignorance, you can't help anybody. It's gone viral. Yeah, for 3 hours. Another thing comes. They don't realize it's become a form of entertainment because there's information saturation. So there is a divide. Agreed. You've also had, there was this program I went for, and what was being celebrated was evidence of 30% internet penetration in Nigeria within so and so period of time. Fantastic. These are signs of development. I disagree. If you come to a village where the major thing they do is fishery, there are fishermen, they bring it out, they sell. Now that's about 6% of the population. You have 3% that's in school that use social media. You have another balance of the population that's just layabouts and not doing anything. Your 30% penetration is that of 6% of the population. And you're celebrating it as you've reached the people. And so you design, quote, development programs that do not touch. The man fishing wants a new net. The person in the other place where they have palm wine tappers, he spends about 6 hours to tap maybe 11 palm trees. Meanwhile, there's a device that if you bring it and slap it around the tree, instead of 6 hours to do those 20-something palm trees, he will spend about 2.5 hours. That's what will change his life. That's the development for him. But instead, you go there and tie a road. In the city, in the place, there are 3 people with good cars. And by tarring the road, you're not also putting drainage. So erosion begins to eat up the place, and you're celebrating really the end of democracy. They tar the road you don't need. Not that there are places where they don't need. And if you must tie a road, say in my village, it doesn't have to be bitumen or nylon tar. You have the type of roads they used to tar before, which is made of, and we have the stones and everything, a mixture of bitumen and those rough stones, but they are smooth enough to drive on. They won't harm your leg or your tire, and it becomes part of the landscape. It has its own beauty. No, we've got it standardized. And so you find progressively greater records of expenditure and contracts by elite to their friends, but not evidence of impact on the life of Nigerians. So when I tell you, we've spent so and so amount of money on job creation for the youths, there was a governor, really a strong investment to make the youth productive. If you remember, he bought them shoe shining kits to be polishing shoes. Yeah. In other words, they must not go for education or any other form of life. They just walk, trek around. That's his own level. And he was happy. He's helping the people. That tells you the level of thinking. You have another one who gave wheelbarrows. You have another one who bought rabbits. Because you know the rabbit breeds very quickly. In 3 months from one rabbit, you could get 30 or more. Yeah, and well, yeah, in about 6 months. So, fantastic idea. If you breed so many rabbits, you go sell it in the market and make a lot of money. But question, this rabbit you're producing in this place, do the people who eat rabbits? No. Do you see the thinking?
I was just going to say, because sometimes, because that's actually where I was going to go to next when it comes to constituency projects and things that you do for the local people, especially when it comes to National Assembly members. Sometimes it's misunderstood because this person is doing something tailored to his people. I remember, apart from the shoe shining one, there was someone that did Meshai.
Yes.
That got the Meshai kits and everything.
To be selling, making
now,
tea. As
someone who's educated, I was like, no, you should consider taking them to school. You should consider lifting them out of this life, you know. But the Meshai said, no, I need this Meshai things.
Job.
I need it for my business. He said, I can now fry more eggs than I used to fry before.
Yes.
There was in Kaduna, they did the one where they give them the
grill kind of.
Yes, the funny looking stoves, and then they were giving them sawdust and things, you know, that was faster for them. The woman was she wasn't interested in uplifting herself to go and do a master's.
Yeah.
She was like, now I can fry 3 times the amount of akara.
And my business
business is blooming. So when it comes to constituency projects from lawmakers, what should be their focus? Lifting people out of poverty or helping them do well with what they have?
It is wrong to lift people out of where they belong.
It is wrong to lift people out of where they belong.
There will always be Messiah. There will be vulcanizers. There will be gate men and security men. And there will be teachers. There will be lawyers. There will be surgeons. There will be pilots. There will be space travelers. If you want to help your constituency, find out those you need to help. There are butchers in your area. They have a terrible abattoir. To leave them as butchers is to provide a good abattoir with a water reticulation system. That's about butchers. The palm wine tappers who trek all of that, how can you help them? Get them something, let them rent it that you use to climb faster. The fishermen, okay, I'm going to provide a central oven with 60 compartments. Each compartment will be owned by one person. Now, it enables you to dry your fish. Or you come and dry it in turns. Now, if you dry your fish, you won't be in a hurry to go to the market and sell it at a loss. Because if it stays till 2, it begins to rot. Now you're lifting them. They are still fishermen. In the same environment, there is son of a fisherman who can't go to school, but who is a brilliant person. You give him scholarship. You're lifting him as who he is. Not take his father. So the woman Messiah you're talking about, why would she? It's like, okay, when I finished my PhD, I had a job offer to work in a bank, in a merchant bank. The salary was 13,000 something per month. I had another job offer to teach in the University of Lagos. The salary was, I think, 920 naira. I sent a lot of acceptance to Unilag. Of course, a couple of my relations called my father and said that now there's clear evidence that Okey is mad. No question about that. But maybe somebody even did this to him. But if you want to lift me as a lecturer in the university, right? What does a lecturer need? Appropriate research and teaching environment, and enough income not to be distracted from what he does and derives joy from doing, his calling. And so you can talk about the pay packet. Not a lecturer, oh, because he's a lecturer, pay him 10 million. No. What is it that's the appropriate wage? Oh, I've just started teaching, I want a brand new car. Is it part of the conditions of service? If it isn't, go to hell, with all due respect. You applied for this job. So the point I'm making being, those thinking about constituency projects. Now, first of all, our environment is such that it will be a little unrealistic to demand that there should be no constituency projects, because some of it has impacted lives. In principle, it's the job of the executive, but in practice, everybody is struggling for relevance, and you can see what the executive is also doing. Who is querying them, for instance? How are they accounting for their, what do you call it, security votes? So all of that considered. So you want to intervene, find out the need of each layer of the society, determine how to address those needs, and make sure you're serving their needs, not your ego. You want to provide job for the youth in your area. Oh, there are many unemployed youth. Good idea. But please find out how many of them have skill, one side. How many don't, one side. How many are educated or can't do. How many need retraining. After you've disaggregated, you know what each group needs. But to say you're doing a youth empowerment program, bring everybody together, that's why, and the detailed studies we've done for several states, if you take, for instance, a state that's doing a youth empowerment program today, and you take time to interrogate all the participants, you're going to find that not less than 40 to 65% of them have been taking part in every youth program going on in that state, empowerment program. So nobody's really being empowered. How can you be empowering so many and unemployed youths are growing in the same environment? How can you say you're promoting entrepreneurship through NDE? NDE needs to be audited. In the last 2 decades, let's just do only 2. You've empowered and enabled so and so number of people. Somebody should go and find all of them, what they're doing, where they are. It enables you to get a more realistic perception of job creation and job loss. You created 20,000 jobs. I'll clap for you. Please give me a record of jobs lost. You may find out you lost 30,000 and created 20. That's national planning. And when government is making this mistake, and all you hear is just condemnation. Those who are condemning are pretending that anybody, once you walk into government, you become omniscient. They're also struggling to do what they can. And on top of this, pressures are on everybody. We have a totally dysfunctional nation, no question about that. And these things took time in growing. And even as we are complaining about government at all levels, state, local government, federal, the person complaining, what is he or she doing where he is? The young people who say they want a wonderful Nigeria, they're activists. Go and see how they are treating those working for them. And this is something I've had to observe and be pained by. You see those carrying their bags, their mates. The same reflexes that you're complaining about is manifest, only worse here. Because, oh, come on, I've arrived. Yes, hurry up, bring up that.
I want to be able to go back to the National Assembly.
You'd better.
I'm trying my best to steer us back there.
You'd better.
It hasn't been all doom and
no,
gloom.
It hasn't.
They did do some... It's been an interesting 1 year. I think one of the things that stood out for me was the Ningi situation. Because that brought one issue that I think we should talk about, the budget padding issue. And we've heard other members of the National Assembly in the past, Senator Shehu Sani, of course, being one of them, who said, look, this has been going on for a very long time.
Sorry to budge in a bit. It's been going on from the very beginning. I was special assistant to the Minister of Transport. I remember, I think it was the 2001 budget. Ojo is not a man who will tolerate any form of impropriety, financial impropriety. He sacked 3 heads of parastatal, swept away, I think, 29 or 32 members of the Railway Board. He had no room for corruption. So the usual thing, they're going to for budget defense, the second one after he had come, and they were talking about, Ojo said, no, we have what we do, we argue it, National Assembly would. So the Director of Finance and Account went to National Assembly. He had nothing to give them. And so they were nonplussed. They were taken from all them. You say, okay, well, since your boss somehow thinks there's no need to do anything, maybe he has also found a way to function without money. And so for the railway, I think it was a 2-point-something billion budget request to deal with this thing. So they approved 20 million. You won't say they didn't approve anything. So since they somehow found
he has found a way.
Yes, he has found a way to function without money. Will help him.
Oh my goodness.
So
what happened afterwards?
What do you think? Nothing happened. You had to wait for the next budget. In between, there were conversations. Look, Nigeria, to an extent, is a criminal enterprise. But that enterprise has been on even before the military coup. It exists in every nation. It's a question of degree. It's a question of institutions becoming strong enough to make misconduct unattractive. Not that it doesn't exist, not that people don't want to, but when they see consequences, I don't say I can escape if I do this, so let me not do it.
The National Assembly did have the conversation about creation of state police. It did seem like they were in support of it, which many, in fact, they had that consultative forum where we erroneously, we didn't plan to find out, but we erroneously got to hear the views.
Yeah.
At the time, we thought the views were the views of the Inspector General of Police, but of course, since then, the man who spoke on behalf of the IG said these were my views and not the views of the police. Do you?
No, I think the National Assembly must be commended in respect of that state police thing.
Yes. Because
what came out was a near consensus of all the reps saying that, look, this is the way to go. I also don't think there's anything wrong with the submission of the IG, whether personal or not.
Or represented.
He has a right to a point of view. That point of view may be correct or it may be incorrect. Also, as the Inspector General of Police, is it in his interest to argue that his powers were scattered? No. I know anybody sitting on top. And he has also grown up with a command perception of the institution. So for some, it's difficult to relate to. If you now split it, there will be no authority. So I can understand that perspective, and if you like, tangential perspective.
I mean, not to butt in, but you see, that actually ties to something that you mentioned before, which is that we can want something so bad.
Very badly.
And then the person who's going to make it work.
Say, come, let me see.
Come and shave my head without
I'm not here.
Without my say so. Come and do it.
So
while we're having these conversations and everyone is talking about it, if the police force in itself is interestingly quiet about the situation, is this something that can happen? with all of its benefits, without the benefits of state police? Will it happen?
For me, it is something that can happen. It is something that should happen. It's something that's long overdue. Some people have said that if you set up state police, the governors will abuse it. My question is, what is not being abused as we speak? And even as a governor, you have your vigilante, you abuse it. How you use your vigilante is also how you use the state police. And no matter how much of a tough guy you think you are, if he's in that local environment, at a point, some people will come and say, oh boy, all of us own this place. So that's the way to go. But it must be proper, because that's what we used to have and it was efficient. Why the current system is challenging is that you're posting people who don't know an environment to go and be in charge of security. Their level of dependency is high. Their vulnerability to financial inducement is also high because of their exposure. The elite in that place will be, hovering all over them for private security, which they pay for, etc. So it's the way to go. But the other point to make is that we have also been very unfair to the Nigeria police for a very long time. The numbers are too few. They are not so well equipped. The training is open to argument. Their conditions of service are abominable. And they are so overstretched and too few, and more recruitments are not being made to match it. On top of it, there's also the infiltration or penetration of not very patriotic persons into the uniform. And when your station is not even equipped with stationery, when you know that your colleague who died the other day, that his family is going to get less than 200,000, and that the other one that died the other year, 3 years ago, they've not got the 200,000, and you have to pay for your boot, not that it's given to you, and your uniform, you're being effectively demobilized from being part of the nation's security and defense forces. Those are the issues on the table. Somebody may look at it and say, oh, it's too much. And I say, no. These problems can be managed by an intelligent leadership that sees the full picture and begins to take things instrumentally. Why it requires somebody who is realistic and pragmatic is that most of the idealists who would tell you how far Nigeria is from America is that they don't realize that the America of today is the result of a 200-and-something year journey. And so, I tell you all the things and the policies that can fix it. A policy is like a plant. If it's put on the wrong soil, the very liquid in the soil will destroy it and destroy the flowers. So policies do not transform societies. Policies in the right environment with the right pragmatic tools for deep penetration engagement, that's what can lead to results. That's why if you look at those who have done very well, look at Jakonde, who was governor for how many years? Everything he did in Lagos was quote-unquote indigenous. He lived the way a person should live. Look at Emma Obara in the southeast. Oh, we have palm oil. That's what we should be. So if you look at all of that, there are paradigms we ought to follow. But we have a new leadership trajectory that's interested in reading budgets, passing it as law, reading another budget without confirming that the law of the last 1 year was obeyed to the letter with measurable outcomes. And then you have lawmakers, fine, their job is to make laws. But you ask yourself, for the pay they get, so what it is this is what we pay you for making law. What law?
I mean, it was a very interesting number when we're listening, when we're doing the research for this. The amount of work that they have done over,
and how many times they've gone on break,
and how many times they've gone on break, and how much money they've been making. It's a very disappointing picture, one that people hope should not replicate itself in the next 1 year. But the past year didn't go without some of his really embarrassing moments. One of them being the prayers. It was even added to our lexicon at some point as a people. We started saying it in my house. I'll be sending prayers to you.
No, it's in your mailbox.
I'll be sending prayers to your mailbox this week. It became part of our lexicon, and we're laughing about it. But it was a very disappointing situation. And one that I don't think has been, well, they hoped it would fizzle. As with most things in Nigeria, we would forget. We would make jokes about it, do memes about it, do skits about it, and then we would move on. But it did leave, in my mind, an indelible mark on this National Assembly? What do you
Well,
what do you
there
think
are
about
other
them?
more terrible marks in previous National Assemblies. That's why I think probably we also shouldn't be too hard on them. They are part of our national mess. We are all part of the mess to some degree. So I don't want it to be like, we nice guys on this side are looking at these terrible people in the National Assembly. How many people outside the National Assembly are not biting their fingers and saying, I wish I was the one making that money? And how many will get into that money and say, well, I don't want it? Look at what is up. Labour Party. We know they give shishi, right? That's presumably what took them to the National Assembly. And then they were given vehicles worth 140-something million as bulletproof, as their entitlement. Did they say, we know they take shishi or take car? No.
Actually, the Nigerian people waited.
But until they took it.
We waited to hear the Labour Party people say, no, this is wrong, this is why we are here. And it was also disappointing because, sorry to butt in, but because a large number of lawmakers that we're seeing right now are first-time lawmakers.
Precisely.
So it was going to be, okay, so
we are coming to make the
young
change.
guys are here.
No.
They are going to come and be different.
How did they become lawmakers? How did they get the money, the hundreds of millions, and in cases billions with which they did the campaign? It's a scam in the name of the people. But talking about those laws.
I'm sorry, I'm going to write that down. A scam in the name of the people. Explain that to me, please.
Okay, let me take that after this point I want to make about the cars. Imagine that those vehicles were given to everybody. I mean, Labour Party, they give me the car. I collect the car. And then I go back, I say, listen, can you give, this car is worth 140 million. I'm prepared to discount 20 million. Can I have 120 million and you keep the car? A lot of car dealers will jump at that. Good. That's the man who supplied the car. Take your car back, give me one. Because it's not mine. I haven't driven it. It's not been numbered. And I go to my constituency with the 120 million. I say, listen, I went in your name. I was given a car of 140 million. I don't think it made sense to me. I'm there to represent you. Well, I've asked them to give me this amount of money. Now, out of the 120 I got back, I'm going to leave 50 million here to be shared. Each family head. Because once you get to that constituency level, everybody knows everybody else. Tell me how you're going to share it. I'll come back. They will tell you to come back by the next morning, they will have a sharing formula where nobody will be cheating.
That's evening.
That's number one. Number two, this other 50 million, we're going to use 10 million for this school with looking roof. We're going to spend 5 million to improve the residence of our traditional ruler to show we have respect for them or whatever. And I am going to keep 30 million. Because it's you that, when you call me, it's my credit I bond. There are people, do you get it? The people will be speechless with respect. And that's how it should be. It didn't happen. And it's not going to happen. So those are some of the considerations. Now, what was it you said you wanted me to explain?
Yeah, a scam in the name of the people.
It's very simple. I will use an example without even going to National Assembly. Okay. Of the people and the Nigerian child, I'm a governor. I want to make heavy investment in education. So I build new secondary schools, maybe 35 new secondary schools in my state. And then I re-equip all the existing secondary schools. And you cut the tape. Investment in education is a scam in the name of the Nigerian child and the people, because what I've done is give contracts to my friends for education infrastructure, not education itself. I didn't say I train new teachers, remember? I didn't say I increased the salary of teachers to keep them on the job. I didn't say I did this or new learning. No, I provided infrastructure. That's a scam. The name of the Nigerian child is being taken in vain when we spend money on education material without education outcome being impacted. That's what I mean. And I chose this simple example. It's also happening in every sphere. You come to my place, it's a riverine area. I'm from maybe River State or Bayelsa State. You say, oh, this is NDDC, Niger Delta Development. And there's this huge space that, it needs a bridge if you want to drive past it. And you spend 2.2 billion building a massive and lovely flyover. And then what we do is that we spread egusi on it to dry because we don't have cars. Now imagine that out of that 2.2 billion, you spent 500 million creating artificial pond. and water reticulation system, a pond that will be about the size of a couple of miles. Water reticulation, fishing will return in an environment that's already damaged. That's development. You're restoring them to the ecology and aquaculture they are familiar with. That's what they know. They don't have guns. They are not hunters. They are not swimmers. They are not farmers. They are fishermen. The environment has been taken over by pollution. You don't recreate the environment, and you've been around for more than 30 years with abandoned projects, and you say a development commission. Development is the improvement of what exists according to the what you call the DNA of that. You say, oh, my orange is developing because the tree germinated, it grew into an orange tree, you're seeing it with the thorns, and then it yields a fruit. Now, somebody goes, cuts the flowers or the stem from another tree and puts on another. That's not development. So that what we are seeing is the desire to open massive infrastructure, physical infrastructure, forgetting that development is a multi-dimensional concept with economic, spiritual, cultural, socio-political, and other dimensions. So this one-track perspective is what costing us a lot of things. So also you find that the knowledge base of many people who are in positions of authority is not sufficient for them to administer those positions effectively.
There is an ongoing review of the 1999 Constitution going on. What do you make of this review?
It's about time. Many of the provisions are clearly, to begin with, how did the Constitution come about? The military organized that Constitution, the military government of that time. I make that distinction because the military is not necessarily a military government. The officers constituted the government, but so wrote that Constitution, swore in a government before the government saw the document it was going to work with. So it wasn't a people's constitution. And in saying that, I do not subscribe to the view that Nigerians should come and give themselves a constitution. They can't come. It can't happen. They can't do it. If you come to my village or your village, you say you want an important decision, it's inform people that you call. The US you're referring to, call 200 people together to give it a constitution. So when we say we Nigerian peoples must assemble, where? Wuse Market? National Stadium? Who constitutes
this group?
So these are, with all due respect again, delusional demands. There's no there the Nigerians call, ethnic nationalities. If you say, okay, let's have ethnic nationalities, the first thing that will begin will be quarrel over which is, like there's a friend of mine, I'll call his name, Kizzy, well, I'll call his nickname is Sefa. There's a language we developed from secondary school, only two of us can speak and understand it. I will carry on our conversation.
It's not strange. I have one with my sister as
Thank
well.
you.
Because we needed some way to communicate where our parents wouldn't hear us.
Yeah, so
we created our own language.
Now we have to Kizzy and I can go forward. Yes.
I understand where you're going. So we are now an ethnic nationality.
Yes, so
yeah, we need representation.
So to now take it to the question of constitution, I think we need to be clear-headed about it. That constitution needs to be reviewed, but reviewed instrumentally. There are provisions that must go. First, in the name of equity. I believe local governments should not be part of what is used to share revenue. It reinforces the inequity because the North has a disproportionately large number of states, and then it has a disproportionately large number of
there's nothing that can be done about that.
There is.
What?
This country is driven by conspiracies. The big boys know themselves. If they meet and take a decision...
If you're big. What's Niger State going to do about its size?
Niger can call the police about its size.
What's Niger State going to do about its size? It's massive. It is what it is.
Yeah. But you see, that's the thing. Give Niger State its money. If you like, use the landmass, but let Niger create local government and fund it. So you can retain all the other parameters but remove local governments. I say it's a nation of conspiracies. They can meet and say, look, this noise from the southeast is getting too much. You see, they have very few local governments and also fewer states. Let's give him one more state. Let's stop here, but don't increase the local government. You know, that can be easily agreed upon. You call up all the state governors, say, listen, this bill is coming. Tell your boys to pass it. That's how this country works. I was in charge of Tambuwal's campaign for presidency 2019. So we had gone, in fairness to Tambuwal, he did wild consultations, but the last person we went to see was President Babangida in Mina. We got there, spoke at length. Then I reminded him that you went to war. You nearly lost your life as a young man. You weren't even married. You took the risk of a coup. Look at the kind of, you of all the heads of state I've seen since I grew up, you had the best collection of ministers. And that's a fact. His policies and everything. Sir, I don't believe this Nigeria you're seeing is what you were anticipating in all the risks you took for this country. Tambuwal is young, blah, blah, blah. So we finished, we had to fly in from there to Port Harcourt, where the primaries were taking place, the PDP primaries. As we left this place and were going to the vehicle, my phone rang. Somebody, a very urbane and decent voice, but he had a northern Fulani ring. He said, hello, Dr. Kechuku, how are you? I said, fine. He said, Tor, you're leaving Ibrahim's house. That's Babangida. I said, yes, okay. Anyway, the summary of it was that he wanted me to come and join, to leave Tambuwal and join the Atiku campaign, which was PDP. I told him, no, I wasn't going to. He said, I told him, one, in terms of I prefer, what do you call it, Tambuwal and all of that. He laughed. He said, no. They told me they will say no. I said, that's so they said no, that you will never agree on. It's only what you believe that you do. So there is not even the money or whether it's B. But anyway, I'm telling you to leave Tambuwal. He's not going to get the ticket. He's going to be Atiku. That Tambuwal is a small boy who is supporting him. Wike. Both of them are small children. Trailer will run over them. Those were his exact words. That who were they, say how many years ago? And the one you're talking about is because they are governor. Wike took party chairmanship, took this other one. Now he wants to produce the candidate. Who is he? In Nigeria? He's a small boy. Okay, so listen, we need you to come and help give some direction to the Atiku campaign. I said, no, blah, blah. That was how the conversation went. Of course, in our tours, a lot of people had expressed clear and obvious support for Tambuwal. By the time we got to Port Harcourt, and this in less than 6 hours, everything had changed. So those who were already on one side had already been contacted and told to be of good behavior. And that's how this country works. So what I'm worried about is the elite insensitivity to the dangers it's creating for itself. Once you look comfortable, if there's a riot and two of us live here and we're running, we'll be among those attacked.
Yes.
We look healthy. So the richer you are, the more that an emir will be driving past and you shoot at his car, that an emir is kidnapped, that the relation of a general or a retired general is kidnapped in this country. If you had said it 15 years ago, 20 years ago, nobody will even laugh. They'll know you're talking nonsense. That's how low we've come.
I mean, we do have just a few minutes.
Really? Have we been talking for up to 10 minutes?
We have been talking for an hour. Yes, we have. There were some things that the Senate, National Assembly really, but in this case, the Senate that did, the rejection of the proposed increase in electricity tariff was applauded by many Nigerians. But then, of course, they had to deal with these corruption allegations throughout the past 1 year. And then, of course, the local government autonomy came up, and it seemed like they were ready. It seemed like they were more favorable towards it this time. What should they be doing now going forward? One of the conversations I felt we should have was about state assemblies and what roles they play. What kind of relationship do state assemblies have with the National Assembly? And is it one that is beneficial to the people?
No, I will start first of all by commending the position of the National Assembly on state police and local governments. These would be investments in good governance and proper structures for real administration of a democratic polity in the 21st century. As for National Assembly and state assemblies, they are all in their domains. They are doing their jobs. They should face what they are doing. The National Assembly has no supervisory function over state assemblies. The state assemblies need to grow stronger, but their dependency on their governors is often total. I remember far back in 1999, after Mberinduji became governor in my state, I think the budget they approved, we had come for something, and I say yes, that they have approved his budget, and that he was so excited that he bought each of them a 406. So you see that the outlook is, they've done something for me. In other words, the general perception of most state chief executives is that I am the state. I do this project. The National Assembly, the State Assembly helps it for me. and all that. So they should face what they need to do. I think also the governors can help the assemblies, because if you have a semi-autonomous assembly, it gives you credibility, and you can create it. You meet with the leadership of the assembly, agree on what things to do, what things to agree on, what things not to agree on. You also create maybe either a quarterly roundtable between the two arms of government, your commissioners and the principal officers, that you should just quarterly dinner. Quarterly, these are the things you meet people. Not you meet them only officially when there's an issue between governments, but everybody is busy being a big man and a big woman. Or who does the speaker think he is? He has a right to think whatever he likes, but after two of you have had dinner together, and he overhears conversations, he could hear you say something he didn't expect you to hear. And we may make him develop, oh, wow, this guy thinks like this, and I thought he was empty. Those are the things you need to build cohesion and a better society. Not speech making by a governor or a state or a speaker or whoever. They are prepared speeches. They don't come from your soul. And it can lead to development, you know.
But what's the way forward as we wrap up? The way forward for the National Assembly as they move into the next year with the highs and lows that have been registered. What should they be doing now? National
Assembly should hold a roundtable, a closed-door plenary. Get people who can harvest all the bad things that have been said about them and distill it for evaluation by themselves. Not all those things are correct. So they should know these are the good things we've done for our country as genuine citizens. These are the things we did thinking they were good, but we now found out they were not good enough. Now, this is where they lied against us, etc. Going forward, these are the things we should avoid doing. That's what they need to do now. But not, oh, we've passed it. No. A self-examination to then separate what must happen and what must no longer happen. The rest will unfold as the events go. Don't draw a timetable of how to be of good behavior. Plan to resist what will make you a bad boy when the opportunity comes.
That is so instructive. I want to thank you very much, Professor, for being with us on the program, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you.
We have been speaking with Professor Okey, policy and strategy expert, public communications expert, leadership, governance consultant, and executive director of the Development Specs Academy. Please join this conversation on our website, channelstv.com. Leave your comments there, respectfully, of course, and join us as we continue to ask the accountability question until it is answered. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.